Spoiler alert, the North wins the Civil War. After the celebrations were over, the question became what to do with the southern states. The former Confederacy was in ruin, both physically and economically. There were 4 million former slaves who needed to join society. The country was still very much politically divided, and to make everything worse, the president had just been shot. This difficult period of American history is known as Reconstruction. As with every big decision throughout U.S. history, there was a great deal of controversy. Before his untimely death, Abraham Lincoln had released the Proclamation of Amnesty and Reconstruction. Step 1 was to re-establish state governments. Step 2 was to readmit the state after 10% of the voting population swore an oath of allegiance to the United States. And Step 3 was to grant pardons to any ex-Confederate who took that oath. Many Republicans felt this plan was too lenient and adopted their own, calling for 50% of the population to take the oath and restricting the power of Confederate officials. Lincoln refused to sign this into law. Andrew Johnson was Lincoln's successor, and he kept most of the 10% plan. The biggest difference was pardons. Many Confederates were disenfranchised or not allowed to vote. However, Johnson kept his ability to individually grant pardons, which he did quite often among wealthy Southerners. There wasn't much more agreement on the matter of integration. The government created the Freedmen's Bureau shortly after the war. Its goal was to provide food, homes, and eventually schools to former slaves. However, the Bureau struggled as Congress refused to extend its funding. Leaders in the South, looking to lessen the damage caused by the end of slavery, passed so-called black codes, which restricted the freedoms of African Americans. This gave rise to the sharecropping system. African Americans would borrow small parcels of land and farm supplies. The terms of the loan ensured that the white landowners would maintain control over the black workers, who were effectively tied there forever. Sound familiar? In an attempt to thwart these laws, Republicans in Congress turned their back on President Johnson and created the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed full rights for all citizens, while also preventing former Confederate officials from gaining power. To help enforce this, Congress passed the Military Reconstruction Act, which effectively gave the Union military control over the South until the states approved the 14th Amendment. The 15th Amendment was ratified later just to tie up loose ends. It specifically guaranteed former slaves the right to vote. Reconstruction was not an easy process, and it left many in the United States looking forward to the future.